Doing
Good
well.
morning, Steve.
Morning, Mr. Thompson. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are we? Mr. Milback, could you please put the agenda on the screen?
Yes, actually, Dave Wessel, I believe, is going to do that. Dave, if you're unable to put that up, yes.
Thank you.
And we do have a quorum.
Okay, I do not have the printout of the agenda like I normally do. So Dave, if you could scroll down, I'd appreciate that.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are we all?
We're doing wonderful. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Today is the 2nd of December. This is the meeting of the Flagstaff Metro Executive Board. Provide notice to everyone who might be listening that we have the ability to recess or legal advice should we so choose to do so. With that, can we have roll call?
Yes. Coral Evans,
Present.
present. Charlie Odegaard,
Present.
Jesse Thompson,
Here,
Matt Ryan, and Art Babbitt,
Present.
and Jim McCarthy,
Here.
Steve Peru,
Present.
Regina Salas,
Present.
and Jim Parks is not present. And then Metro Plan staff, we have Jeff Milbeck,
Here,
David Wessel,
Here.
and myself, Rosie Ware, present, and others in attendance. We have Dan Okoli
Present.
and Dan Folk. Am I missing anyone? Okay, and that concludes the roll call, Chair Evans.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here for public participation at this time? Not seeing anyone, we'll go
Oh, we
ahead.
do not. Sorry.
Okay, not seeing anyone, we'll go ahead and move on. We're now down to item number D. This is approval of the minutes. This would be minutes of our regular meeting, which would be October 7th, 2020. Those are on pages 5 and 9 of our packet. Is there a motion for that? Approval of those minutes?
Madam Chair, Steve Pearl, make the motion.
Thank you.
McCarthy, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. There's been a motion made by Mr. Peru and a second by Mr. McCarthy to approve the minutes of our regular meeting, which was October 7th, 2020. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. We're now down to, we have nothing on our consent agenda at this particular time. So we're now down to general business. First up on general business, again, this would be on pages 5 and 9 of your agenda, is the acknowledgement of departing board members. I believe that Mr. Milback is going to lead us through this discussion. Mr. Milback?
yes, Mayor Adam, Mayor Evans and members of the board, thank you. I gotta say, this is really a tough one for me. I consider myself usually to be pretty good with words, and I am feeling a little bit speechless about how to express my gratitude and sense of loss, actually. And sometimes words are just, they just don't cut it. I am going to do my best, however, and say, I have worked with Supervisor Babbitt now for many years. Supervisor Babbitt was chair of NAPTA when I served there, and also chair of MetroPlan in the recent past. And, you know, we have seen some really big changes and improvements together. Supervisor Babbitt, I appreciate your keen intelligence, what seems to me to be just a boundless ability to focus intently on things, and your really good heart. And I'm going to miss working with you. At Mayor Evans, our working relationship really kicked into high gear about 4 years ago with MetroPlan, and then really deepened when you took over as chair last year. And I'm going to appreciate, or I do appreciate, and I'm going to miss the opportunities to strategize with you, and to, you know, actually watch with awe as you just kind of cut through stuff. And so the board knows what I mean. Sometimes, you know, I will lay out paragraphs of information, and you will just kind of summarize in a sentence. And I always know when the incisive summary is happening, because it starts like this. Look, Jeff, here's how it is. And you always say something that just cuts right through it at that time. So I've learned a ton from you, and I appreciate you. And Councilmember Odegaard, you know, I want to say you really surprised and delighted me. There's this expression coming out of nowhere on the run. And 2 years ago, I didn't know you very well. You expressed interest to serve on the MetroPlan board, and we just started working together, and you just went for it. And I have so appreciated your desire to get things done, to make things happen. And again, like Supervisor Babbitt and Mayor Evans, you get it. I mean, you just get it. And I really appreciate that. So I am going to miss working with all of you. And while I could take up this meeting with reminiscing and telling stories, I know that it is fair for me to turn this back over to the mayor with my final words of thanks. You're the best, and I'm going to miss working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for those words, Mr. Milback. Are there any other individuals who'd like to speak at this time?
I'll just say something real quick, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Milback, for those very kind words. Really have enjoyed being a part of MetroPlan, and you know, there's still unfinished business, but someone will also have to carry that torch moving forward, and that's what a team is all about. That there's many people moving things forward and seeing things come to fruition. And so thank you, Mr. Milback, for those very kind words. I really enjoyed it.
Mr. Babbitt, would you like to say something?
Just, you know, right back at you, Jeff. You are one of those folks. You build organizations and you build teams that are high performing. You got great, appropriate, high expectations that is coupled with a management style that I just have profound respect for. You let people do their work. You provide some great guardrails and steerage, but you let people work, and you understand that great organizations are built when you create environments that allow people to perform. And so anyway, right back at you. I am going to miss our official capacity. I know you and I are going to keep working together in other realms of the world, and that sure is comforting. So thanks very much.
And I just want to say, you know, thank you, Jeff, for your leadership of this group. Thank you, each and every person who is a part of MetroPlan. I've had the opportunity to be on MetroPlan since 2008 when I first came on council, and I've learned so much. And it's been absolutely one of my favorite boards or commissions to serve on. And I look forward to interacting with each of you in my future endeavors. So thank you.
Mayor, this is Jim McCarthy. Can I make a comment?
Yes, you can, Mr. McCarthy.
Well, first of all, I don't know if we're using the chat to say we want to make a comment, but anyway, I'm going to use first names. And the reason I am is because I consider the outgoing members to be my personal friends. That's Coral, Charlie, and Art. All three of us have strong relationships based on what we've worked together on, and a lot of side conversations over the last few years. And I'd like to say I'm going to miss you guys, but I don't think that's it. I think we're all going to be seeing each other, and that's for the good. So thank you, and for helping me come up to speed on being a council member and a member on MetroPlan. I really do appreciate your help over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and move down the agenda. We're now on item.
Chairwoman,
Uh-huh.
Chairwoman.
Mr. Thompson?
This is, yes, Board Member Thompson. I too would like to say thank you. You all have been a really good friends, and you had the personality and the character that attracts a lot of people. And while I have learned quite a bit from you as well, while I know more dirt roads than pavement and all that, you gave me a lot of information about the things that you are knowledgeable about. And again, Jeff, thank you, and our staff members as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry, guys.
Did you want to speak, Mr. Ryan?
I have no idea where you are in the meeting. I had a malware protection hop up on my computer and shut everything down. So I'm being protected. So now I'm finally here. Where are you, Mayor?
We are happy that you are back. We were just finishing up the acknowledgement of departing board members.
Oh gosh, I love you guys, and I'm going to miss you. Coral, Jesse, Art, and Charlie. Gosh, I almost forgot Charlie, because I said farewell to Charlie two times already in different meetings. But actually, I so appreciate working together with all you guys. You get it in terms of transportation, and then in your own careers, what you've done. Cora, I watch you grow up here. It's been wonderful, and I'm surely going to miss you. And Charlie, you've been a great advocate for transportation. We've talked about that. Art, he's just a pest that's on my board. So if he's in this meeting, I'm swatting him. But we're going to have a couple of more times. And then there is the honorable grandfather of the county supervisors, Jesse Thompson, that he'll stay with the board, but I've had Jesse's been a supervisor longer than I, and I've had the great pleasure of working together with him off and on with Navajo County. So I want to thank you all, and don't you be strangers and disappear. I'd love to see you out and about, in a relaxed setting and all that kind of thing. And thank you. I'm not going to call you Mayor. I'm calling you Coral. Thank you, Coral.
I remember coming on MetroPlan. I think you're the first person I met in 2008.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. You had to put up with me all these years.
So I'm going to go ahead and move down our agenda. I'm going to move down to item number B. This is an election of officer.
Well, Mayor, and I'm still going to call you Mayor, and Madam Chair, I just want to make one point. I did not say my goodbyes to Supervisor Thompson because although he is retiring from Navajo County, he's not retiring from my world, thank goodness, which is continuing to serve on the Metro Plan Board. So I really appreciate that, Supervisor Thompson. And
Thank you.
to the election of officers, I'm recommending that the board appoint a chair and a vice chair on either an annual or temporary basis effective December 16th, 2020. So as we've really just been identifying, of Metro Plan 7 board members, at least 3 are going to be changing before January 6, 2021 board meeting. And we're looking at the city making appointments on January 5th and the county on January 12th. And both the chair and vice chair are going to be moving on. So the board has the opportunity here to either appoint an officer of the existing pool of 4 officers are still, 4 board members are still here to have a chair and a vice chair, or the board could appoint temporary. And the difference is it gives opportunity for the 3 new members who are coming in to be involved in the permanent ongoing solution or appointment of officers. I don't have a recommendation. Either will work. I would only say that I would very much appreciate if you would make at least a temporary, if not annual appointment today, so that as of December 16th, I know who my board chair and vice chair are, and we can continue the work that Metro Plan is doing. And that concludes my report, Mayor Evans.
So with that, I want to say that I appreciate you leading us through that, Mr. Milback. I would like to make a suggestion to the board. I would like to suggest that the board consider appointing Mr. McCarthy as chair during this interim period, and then Mr. Ryan as vice chair during this interim period. Understanding that in January, both the County Board of Supervisors as well as the Flagstaff City Council would then determine who would be on Metro Plan. And then the Metro Plan Board could come back in February and either ratify their decisions or make the appropriate changes. But that would be my motion. And I would welcome a second and then have discussion on that.
Madam Chair, this is Steve. I'll second the motion.
Thank you. There's been a motion made by myself and a second by Mr. Peru to appoint Mr. McCarthy as chair of Metro Plan in an interim capacity, and Mr. Ryan as vice chair of Metro Plan in an interim capacity. With that, is there any other discussion?
Well, this is Jim McCarthy. Well, thank you very much, Mayor. I would be willing to do that. And I think Mr. Ryan being vice chair would be excellent. And I strongly feel that this should be a temporary appointment, which is what your motion was. And then once the dust settles from the new appointments to Metro Plan, then we'll let that new board make a decision for the rest of the year. But I agree with the comment that we need some kind of leadership in this interim month or two. So, well, thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate your motion.
Well, I'm thankful that you are fine with the motion, because when you wanted to speak, I was like, he better not be saying he doesn't want to do it. He was just voluntold to do it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I was just going to say, I have to go to the bathroom right now.
So is there any further discussion? Mr.
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah, just quickly, and thank him, Madam Chair. Yes, and I agree with all the intent that has already been expressed. Temporary would be good. It gives us both the county and the city an opportunity to go through their processes to determine next members of Metro Plan. If anything popped up in an emergency, at least we have it set up well. That we can adapt during this process. You know, I would also suggest that at the next meeting, there is a, if it's after the city and the county processes, it would be, it's set up well, that we can adapt to what's going on. And so I'd be perfectly willing to step in this position. I think it also makes sense for the sake of Mr. McCarthy, for Jim. Yeah, he's been a part of this reorg and part of the rewrite associated with it. You as mayor, currently you're sitting in as chair in the city capacity. That would allow for some level of continuity as well. So with that, I think we have plenty of business. Thank you. We'll try and avoid all emergency meetings between now and the next meeting here. All right.
So, and then just a point of clarification, I don't remember if you said this, but this would be effective December 16th. And I say that because that's what the packet suggested.
Okay, I do think that would be
Was
fine.
that your motion, Mayor?
It wasn't my motion, but I know that my last day is the 15th. And so I believe that Mr. Odegaard's last day is the 15th, Mr. Babbitt's last day is the 15th, and I'm not sure about Mr. Thompson, but so there was the assumption that it would be effective as of the 16th of December.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
So there's been a motion and a second.
As mentioned, Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Thompson.
Mayor, I will continue to stay with Metro Plan.
Oh, I apologize. I was talking about your role as supervisor, so I do apologize for that, Mr. Thompson.
Oh, okay.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Well, that motion carries. Thank you. So we are now down to item number C. This is the strategic advance. This should be on pages 12 and 14 of your agenda. Mr. Milback, I understand there's no recommendations. This is just a discussion at this time.
Yes, it is Mayor, Madam Chair, members of the board. It's a discussion at this time. It's agendized for action. So if the board wants to move the date to March 3rd or another date, you certainly can. The strategic advance is something, just as a quick reminder, we did last year for the first time. The FMPO has done it in its history. Basically say, where are we now? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? And we start out by reviewing our progress over the past year, and then we plot a course for the future. It has served us well. And as we've been discussing the last couple of items, the advance is currently scheduled for February 3rd. However, once new board members are assigned, February 3rd will be the first meeting that those new board members can attend. And I have brought this forward because I thought the board might want to move the meeting to March, the March meeting. I can't see exactly what the date is here for the first Wednesday in March, or perhaps even another date. I certainly appreciate staying on schedule and keeping the strategic advance momentum going. And I certainly appreciate giving new board members an opportunity to get oriented before I just throw them in and start asking, questions about what our priorities are and where we're headed. So although I didn't put a recommendation in here, I did want to open up for discussion and see if you wanted to move it forward to March 3rd or perhaps even another date in the future. And that concludes my report.
Board?
If I may, Madam Chair, just a thought on that. Again, you're going to have we are going to have a big shift in board membership, and a few of the members will be council members that may have businesses that they're doing. I think it's premature to establish a year's worth of meetings until the new board gets seated. Or the new board members for the sake of this current board. That in the meantime, I would suggest you keep the January date, you keep the February date. However, the topic for the February might be more appropriate for orientation and the new board getting together associated with that. That provides an opportunity, at least for at least 1 month, for all the new members to get up to speed before you step into a strategic advance associated with this. And so there are my thoughts associated with the calendar. Don't lock in the future dates until you get the new board set. Allow them a chance to make sure everybody can attend meetings, then lock in your calendar related to it, but also adapt to the transition.
Board,
Madam Chair, this is Steve Prue. I would agree with Mr. Ryan's assessment.
Yes, that makes sense. Jim McCarthy.
I agree as well. Supervisor Thompson.
I think that is a very good idea as well. Mr. Milback, I believe that you have a majority with direction for this particular item.
Yeah, Madam Chair, can you confirm for me what that is related to the March 3rd strategic advance? Are we holding it March 3rd or just waiting to see how things play out with new appointees?
The way I understood the decision or the majority is that we would have the meeting when the new board is set, and then that board would determine the schedule of when the upcoming meetings would be. So they would determine, I believe the next item has to do with meeting schedule as well as the strategic advance schedule. That way we can be sure, we can be ensured that the members of the board have the ability to talk about what their conflicts may or may not be and be able to set meetings that work for them. That's how I understand it. Mr. Ryan, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm hearing then is direction from the board, and this is just blending into the next item, is that we will have the January and February meeting as scheduled. And at the February meeting, the new board will determine the calendar going forward, including the timing of the strategic advance.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And so that did bleed over into item number D. I believe that Ms. Ware was going to present that to us. Understanding the board's direction, I would suggest that we probably hold this item until the February meeting with the new board. Because it has to do with the calendar. Ms. Ware, is that okay?
Yes, sorry. I would be in agreement. We can carry it forward if that is acceptable.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and move down to item number E. This is Regional Transportation Plan Update. This is for discussion only. This is on page 18 and 19 of our agenda. Mr. Milback.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, quick reminder, the Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP, is a 20 to 25 year plan that we update every 5 years. And it is a core responsibility of a metropolitan planning organization to create a document like this for the region. And when we last did this in 2017, it led to propositions 419 and 420 that were approved by voters and really had a significant impact on the direction that transportation is taking in this community. As the board might recall, in January of this year, at the advance, we established December 31st, 2020 as the goal for having the new Regional Transportation Plan consulting team assembled. So basically gave us a year as staff to get the team together. And I'm here today to tell you that we are not going to meet this deadline, and I am responsible for the delay, and here's why. As I have watched things unfold, like the city's declaration of a climate emergency and the results of the November election. I believe it's really important to pause for a minute and gather more information and more input. So as an additional step this year, and this is something we haven't done in the past, I'm establishing a steering committee of sorts to help guide the process. And the intention is to include a diverse group of economic development and environmental activists and people in between who are just good thinkers to engage the process from the beginning. And in my experience, this kind of approach of bringing in a group at the very beginning to craft things, including the scope of work, like what are we going to ask the consultant to do? You know, what are we wanting to accomplish with this 25-year plan in the first place? In my experience, bringing in a group to engage at that level really provides our best chance to develop a plan that can be broadly supported. And if not broadly supported, at least it's opposed for the right reasons. And I know that might sound like I'm mincing words, but I'm not. You know, this is a great community. And in my experience, when we bring good people of differing perspectives together and let them candidly discuss important issues, you get really good outcomes. And it's great when people oppose something for the reasons, you know, that have merit and are tied to exactly what's trying to happen. And sometimes if we don't take the time to bring people together and be inclusive, there can be a lot of misunderstandings, which make, you know, decisions even harder and understanding even harder when momentum is established. So I discussed this approach with the TAC and the management committee, and they support it. I would also say that we are ahead of schedule with this core responsibility of ours to adopt a 25-year plan. The December 31st of this year deadline was really an internal management deadline. It's nothing that the federal government or state are saying you've got to get it done by this time. And I feel confident that the delay is worth it. I do want to let you know that at this time, the management committee, it's still forming, but the people who I have invited are Heidi Hansen with the City of Flagstaff, Nicole Antonopoulos, Sustainability with the City of Flagstaff, Joe Galley with the Chamber of Commerce, Scott Overton, Street Maintenance with the City of Flagstaff. Josh Meyer has been, I believe, is going to be appointed from NAU. And I know Dr. Okoli is here and he might have more information on that. So I don't want to overstep or say anything too soon. But at least those, and then I'm reviewing a short list of a few other individuals as well. I've asked the city manager and the county manager for their recommendations. So again, we just get a working group that is relatively small, but also definitely broad-based and inclusive. So that concludes my report on the status of the RTP, and I'm, Madam Chair, back to you.
So board, were there any thoughts and comments to what we just heard?
Just a quick question, if I may, Madam Chair. Jeff, do you have that listing of the folks that you were suggesting?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Supervisor Ryan, I do. I can send it out to the board if you like, or I can just reread it here if you like.
It'd be nice to just see it. You know, I like the intent of what's being suggested here. It's just taking a look at it comprehensively and in one place, you know, just to see, you know, was there anybody else that we thought you might want to consider associated with that?
Thank you. I will send it to you and I would welcome the input.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any other discussion. We'll go ahead and move down the
Carl,
agenda.
just one, sorry, I was trying to get in here.
Okay.
Just one quick thing. Yeah, no, I just super support the idea of expanding, kind of the set of eyes that are on here. So I think it's great. And I think you got some good names on there, and appreciate that strategic perspective of community engagement on that. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to weigh in? Okay. We are going to go ahead and move down to F. This is our financial management policy, grant pursuit, pages 20 to 23 of our agenda packet. And so staff is making a recommendation here, recommending that we adopt the criteria for Metro Plan pursuit of grant funding. So this is a decision for us today. Mr. Milback?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. As the board may recall, and it's been 2 months since we met, I did bring this to the board last time, and we have been working through, Metro Plan staff have been working with city staff in particular and ADOT, our TAC members, our management committee, to come up with a grant pursuit policy. And I'd really like to take a few minutes here to put a PowerPoint up on the screen that kind of it'll just take a few minutes, but it'll illustrate some of the reasons for adopting this grant pursuit policy, and really to get very clear for ourselves and our member agencies, the way that Metro Plan is intending to conduct itself as we go forward. And if you'll, Dave, I'm going to try to share the screen here. Okay, can anyone not see my PowerPoint presentation?
We see that, thank you.
For some reason, it is not going to slide view, so I'm just going to go through it this way. Using a technology grant is really an example, an illustrative project that helps us determine how we want to work together. And the goal overall is to gain commitments from the Metro Plan member agencies, and I put all required levels. So it's not just the board or just the TAC or just management, to get agreement to pursue specific grants. And certainly what we want to do with this one particular grant is improve our transportation system. We want to leverage 419 funds to deliver on promises made to voters. And we want to increase grant competitiveness. So getting grant funds is hard. And the more competitive we can be by having a really tight proposal and clear communication among member agencies, the better. Now, the approach with this particular grant, and it's reflected in the policy I'm asking you to adopt, is to learn from what we have over the past few months. So member agencies want advance notice. They want to have time to budget local match. They want to understand the impacts on staff. If Metro Plan writes a grant and says, hey, great news, here's some money, and then staff say, oh, great, now we got money to build something, but we don't have any staff to build it with or management, it's not a gift, it's a problem. So we want to be very cognizant of that and make sure we understand the approval process. So who approves it? Is it at the community development director level? Is it at the city manager level? Is it at the council level? And every member agency of Metro Plan has their own internal process. So I'm going to try to go through these slides quickly, and I don't know why I'm having the challenges I am with PowerPoint. We as Metro Plan want to identify shared priorities, we want to align goals, we want to advance projects. And we also want to provide leadership on multi-jurisdictional projects, that member agencies share. It's not really clear who might lead it. So with this particular grant, we want to improve our transportation system with smart signals and with infrastructure. And I'm not going to go into detail on this particular grant right now, unless the board wants me to come back and go deep. Really, the point is just to illustrate our approach overall. And we want to leverage, as I'd already mentioned, Proposition 419 funds. So this particular project has about $3 million in Prop 419. The grant provides 50%. So if we have 3 million local matching 3 million federal, we can do $6 million worth of work. And frankly, up to $12 million could be pursued. So there might be opportunity to do even more leverage. And then next is to increase grant competitiveness. So to be competitive, we have to really demonstrate local collaboration. When we go to a funding agency, they need to know that if they give us the money, we're going to do what we said we would do. So doing all this front end work really it establishes that for us. We need to document local match. We need to adopt a technology plan and then commit to a management plan. And again, this is just to make sure that the funding agency knows we're going to be successful. So essentially what we've done here with local coordination is what MetroPlan has been suggesting and discussing with city staff and with ADOT staff, is that MetroPlan would be in the role of planning. We'll do the technology plan, we'll write the grant, and we'll shepherd through an intergovernmental agreement and a memorandum of understanding. That'll be our part. The city will provide the local match and then management. So once the grant comes and $3 million is awarded, the city will get that money and the city will manage the project and get it done. And ADOT will provide in-kind match and then operations support. So we've had meetings, Dave and I, with the city and ADOT staff, and we're getting, beginning to get agreement on, and we definitely have preliminary agreement on this approach. So we've got some questions to answer to fine tune, the agreements with the city and ADOT. Essentially though, and I think I'm going to skip. Well, I just want to show you this image. It's an approval worksheet and checklist, and you don't have to see all the lines. I think the point I want to make is we're developing this with the staff partners to make sure that we are covering all the details. So again, when we apply for a grant, we're doing so with full information, with full confidence at all levels of the various organizations. It's a communication tool. So I'm going to stop sharing that PowerPoint. And Dave, I'm going to ask you if you would to go back to and share the staff report. And if you could scroll down a little bit, the policy that I'm asking the board to adopt is, not so far, Dave, please. If you just scroll up to section 3 of the staff report. Yeah, thank you. Okay, too far. There it is. Okay, the grant pursuit policy draft. Really simple. I've given you the whole presentation. I ran this past the technical advisory committee and the management committee, and they support it. And basically what we're saying is we're going to complete these worksheets I shared with you so that everybody knows what's going on. We're going to share them with the management committee and the TAC members as needed. We're going to get the signatures and support that we need before we apply for grants whenever possible. And then I add this additional bullet, which is nothing in this policy will prohibit MetroPlan from pursuing grants when it feels it's in the best interest of MetroPlan or MetroPlan's member agencies. And I added that bullet, and I was very candid about that bullet with TAC members because we are an independent organization. And there conceivably might be a point in the future when the TAC just really doesn't want us to pursue a grant, but somehow we discuss it and on our own autonomy decide it's important, we just need to do it. I don't anticipate that will happen. It might never, but I pointed out because we're so new, we've only been independent for not even 6 months yet officially. I think it's important that we don't immediately defer our autonomy and tie our hands as an organization to needing approval from other organizations before we can do our business. So that's why I put it here. And I think it's an important structure for us for many years to come, and want to capture it in policy. So thank you for hearing me out on that report. And back to you, Mayor Evans.
So, board,
Madam Chair, this is Steve.
Mr. Peru.
I do support the grant pursuit policy. I think it's an important way to coordinate Metro Plan seeking opportunities, of course, for funding. I do also want to support what Jeff just said in terms of there's going to be opportunities that just come up that are just, we just learned about this opportunity. We really need to move on it quickly. And so I do, of course, want to make sure that there's some flexibility so that we don't have the process so ironed out that we're not able to move within our own process. And so I'm kind of wanting to make sure that we can balance that out when we do need to. I also want to acknowledge that, there may be times when, and I'm here on the Metro Plan Board as a representative of Mountain Line, where we may be seeking a similar grant. And so having conversations about who is the most effective grant recipient is going to be important. In some cases, it may be that, Metro Plans determines after a lot of conversation with the partners that it may be in the best interest of the community as a whole for the grant to be pursued by someone other than Metro Plan, although it could also be vice versa. So again, I just want to put all those things in terms of communication, coordination, and really not from the standpoint of competition, because we should not be competing with each other for grant dollars. We should be coordinating and aligning our discussions and goals in that area. So thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Madam Chair, do you need a motion on this?
Oh, we do need a motion.
So this is Jim McCarthy. I'll make a motion that the board adopt the grant pursuit policy as outlined in the packet, specifically the 4 bullet points that we just read.
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion. This is Supervisor Matt Ryan, and want to comment also.
Okay, well, there's been a motion made by Mr. McCarthy and a second by Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan, comments?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, I think Steve's capturing it well in terms of the opportunity. It's opportunity. My gosh, this is how we can thrive in the region. We've had earlier examples as we built the Mountain Line system on where we can leverage for the appropriate grants. Sometimes as independent organizations, we can be inhibited. Whereas if we use the unifying opportunity of regional partners, we bring strength in that way. And or as noted by Steve, sometimes it is very specific to a particular organization that it might be in that best interest to do that. So just reiterating the points, but this is our opportunity as we step into it. I think, given time, we use this organization for the sake of our regional partners to enhance their granting opportunities. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment?
Madam Mayor, this is Madam Chairwoman. This is Regina Salas.
Ms. Salas.
Yes, I just want to articulate my appreciation of this forward-looking grant pursuit policy. 2.1 million, at least 2.1 million in grants over the next 5 years. It's a lofty goal, but realistic at the same time. I really appreciate the clarification of roles and delineation of responsibilities of partner agencies. So this is a collaborative partnership in action. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Well, we have a motion. Mr. Thompson?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Thompson.
I'd just like to say that prioritizing and the way that we're going about it with all the stakeholders is very important. So I do support the effort here. Thank you very much.
Well, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. We are going to move down to item number G. This is our fiscal year 21 first quarter budget report on pages 24 and 28 of our agenda packet. This is for discussion only. Mr. Milbat.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. First of all, I want to recognize Rosie Ware, who has great financial skills, and we are operating independently, managing our own books. And one of the things we're able to do this way is get very timely information. We could have given you this report a couple of months ago. Frankly, we're billing every month timely, and the finances are administratively operating very well. The purpose of this report, though, is to let you know really where we stand in terms of what we said we were going to spend and what we're actually spending. So in looking at the first quarter, we are tracking salaries and benefits. We're just about 4% under budget. So we're very much on track. Our operating expenses are projected to be over by about 10% in 2021. And that's because I underestimated the cost of payroll processing and information technology, in our transition to independence. We had some startup costs there that I didn't foresee. Our travel expenses, not surprisingly, are projected to be 50% less than budget, and they might be much less than that because we're obviously not doing much traveling in a time of COVID. The biggest discrepancy is that project expenses are projected to be underspent in fiscal year 21. And frankly, project initiation is taking longer than I anticipated. And for a couple of reasons. One, the regional transportation plan we already spoke about. I'm delaying that process to make sure we have the right approach. The Milton underpass we want to spend funding on is really pending completion of the Milton Corridor Master Plan. So the projects are just taking longer to get out of the chute than I thought that they would. So what I would like to do is just, if you would please scroll down to the budget, the graphs, because we've got the text and it's in your packet, but I think perhaps you can see just the graph that illustrates our budget and salary and basically what our projection is. And this is just a graphic way of indicating what I've already stated in terms of how we're going to be spending money in this year. And Dave, I think there might be one more graph if you go a little bit farther down the screen. Yeah, this is just all the details. So if the board actually had questions about any particular line item, we wanted to be transparent and share all that information with you. Yeah, I think that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Board, are there any thoughts or comments on this particular item?
Madam Chair, Jim McCarthy, I just had a quickie question. When we talk about Milton Underpass, are we talking about under the train tracks?
Yes.
And what's being contemplated there? Make it 6 lanes or what?
Madam Chair and Councilmember McCarthy, what we identified when we were putting this budget together in the spring was that once the Milton plan is done, it still seemed like the Milton underpass was going to be a crux issue. We would need to go deeper and figure out exactly what we want to do with the underpass. And it might be funding for engineering. As you said, maybe it's to make it 6 lanes, but we actually don't know what the Milton Corridor Master Plan is going to suggest yet.
So it's just a placeholder for now.
It's a placeholder so we don't lose momentum and we have money to do something that's important to the region when the time comes.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Okay, thank you, Mr. Milback. We're going to go down to item number H. This is a tip amendment for bicycle and pedestrian funding. This would be on pages 29 and 36 of your packet. The recommendation here is that the executive board award a $50,000 competitive mini grant to the city of Flagstaff for bike and pedestrian projects, and that we support the related transportation improvement program amendment. Mr. Milback.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, I also want to acknowledge that Community Development Director Dan Folk, I believe, is still in the virtual room with us, and he might want to say something. I'm going to just go ahead and run through this quickly. MetroPlan staff went through a process of a mini grant, and we asked for applications from our member agencies. It's one of the items in our strategic work plan, which is to put at least $50,000 out there for multimodal and safety projects. We went through the process. The city of Flagstaff applied for bicycle and pedestrian funding. As we went through it, we learned that ADOT had, there's some concerns with the color of money, and we can go into the administrative detail if you want to. And if you want that, I'm going to ask Dave to jump in and point all those things out. But in simplest terms, related to the color of money and accounting, it is somewhat difficult for us to just assign money to the Kinlani sidewalk project. So we're recommending the money be sent to the city of Flagstaff so they can spend it in appropriate ways on bicycle and pedestrian projects throughout the city. Dave has been working with Brandy Suda at the city of Flagstaff and with ADOT to make sure we dot all our I's and cross all our T's and document everything we need to send this funding. And the role of the MetroPlan board at this point, if you choose to accept it, is to amend the transportation improvement program, which essentially moves $50,000 from MetroPlan's coffers to the city of Flagstaff to spend on these projects. So what I'm asking for essentially is an amendment to the TIP, and I'm asking the board to make that amendment today. And if there are any questions for Dave or I, we are here to go deeper as the board wishes.
Board. We would be looking for a motion on this. Are there any questions for Mr. Milback?
So Mayor, would you like a motion?
Yeah, I would. Thank you.
I move that the board amend the TIP to award $50,000 in the mini grant to the city for the bicycle and pedestrian projects and approve the related transportation. Well, I already said that part. So in effect, approve item G.
Is there a second for that?
Madam Chair, this is.
Mayor, this is Board Member Thompson. I'll go ahead and second it.
I'll defer to Mr. Thompson.
Okay, there's been a motion made by Mr. McCarthy with a second by Mr. Thompson to approve this agenda item. Is there any further discussion? I see that Mr. Folk has a comment on this particular item. Mr. Folk.
Hi, good morning, Mayor Evans and board members. I did ask to provide a public comment. I want to first of all thank Jeff Milback and his team for creating this mini grant opportunity. I think it's going to be a great source to do some really effective kind of smaller projects in terms of dollars, but very impactful for the neighborhoods where these projects can happen. I think we've identified a great project that's going to benefit the residents of the Flagstaff Border Town Dormitory, residents of Clark Homes, in those neighborhoods all around Thorpe Park. I think we're checking the boxes. We're connecting, again, those populations to a park, to Flagstaff High School, and to 2 transit stops as well. So again, I appreciate all the support, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the project that we're proposing. Thank you.
Mayor, this is Jim McCarthy. A clarification, that was item H on the agenda. I believe I said G in my error.
Oh, thank you so much for catching that, Mr. McCarthy. And so I just wanted to add that I do appreciate this particular motion by the board. I know that this was something that came up in our strategic plan about making sure that the smaller grants that used to be awarded through the Metro Plan would continue to be done. And this is an example of that, and about us addressing that need that came out of our strategic planning session. So thank you. There's been a motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. We're now down to I. This would be the fiscal year 2021 TIP and UPWP adoption schedule. This is on page 37 and 38 of our agenda. We are going to have Mr. Wessel lead us through this discussion, but there is a recommendation that we adopt TIP and UPWP adoption schedule. Mr. Wessel?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is an action similar to the one we took last year for the TIP. This year, we're addressing both the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP, and the Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP. And basically what we're asking for is the adoption of the schedules, processes, mandated projects. And this gives staff the opportunity to anticipate the need for preparing advertisements for the public participation that's required for these. So you can see at the bottom of page 37 and into page 38, the TIP adoption schedule, starting with today's action, assuming you approve it. And it's looking for the TIP, for the ads, for the call for projects, and the meeting dates for review and adoption, recommendation adoption of the TIP, as well as a call for comments during the comment period. And then for the work program, kind of similar schedule of events with a call for public comment in March. So today we're looking for the adoption of these schedules, and that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board.
Madam Chair, I'd be willing to make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Jim McCarthy, and also point out that the April dates that are listed as 2020, I believe should be 2021.
Thank you for that correction.
This has been-
And Madam Chair, just clarification on that, and I'll modify my motion to include that modification, but probably just need to note that the TIP that we're approving is from 2022 through 2026, and the Unified Work Program is from 2022 to 2023.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan, for the clarification of your motion. Mr. McCarthy, thank you for also that correction. There's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? I would like to just acknowledge that Mr. Peru is having to leave our meeting, but he will attempt to join us here. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. We are now down to J. This is Milton and 180 update, pages 39 through 40 of our agenda. This is a discussion item only. Mr. Mileback.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Our strategic work plan this year made really clear that it's our responsibility to participate in, review, and then take formal action in support of or recommending adjustments to Milton Highway 180 plan. And we're hoping to do that within the next 6 months. ADOT continues to work on the plan. And I just want to point out that ADOT held a virtual open house on November 18th to gain public input on the Milton Road corridor. They actually held one on the 19th for the 180 portion. Regarding Milton, though, going into the open house, the no build alternative was the highest scoring alternative. And we, Dave and I, MetroPlan staff, have been collaborating with ADOT and Mountain Line and the city regarding ADOT's planning effort. I just want to share with you, and I'm not asking for action, but I just want to share, my perspective and looking at this and discussing it with so many people, the importance of MetroPlan supporting ADOT's efforts while they compile the results of the November 18th open house. As an organization, I think it's important that we learn what ADOT's recommended alternative is, or will be after all the input they receive. Rather than just saying uncomfortable or saying what we think about no build, let's let ADOT complete their process. And then following those recommendations, we'll continue to stay involved with project partners. And it's important that we really understand the options, the implications, the rationales, why ADOT is recommending what they are. And ultimately, our goal is to meet the spirit of our work plan. We want to either support it or recommend thoughtful adjustments to whatever it is that ADOT recommends. So TAC members received a PowerPoint presentation by ADOT staff a couple of weeks ago. Management committee members actually discussed some concerns about a potential no build scenario. And they also expressed interest in ongoing collaboration among local partners. ADOT wasn't able to attend the management committee meeting. So I think it's really important I point out that the management committee members recognized ADOT's role as a MetroPlan member agency, as the project manager on this Milton Corridor project. And, at core, there's just very strong interest from MetroPlan staff and member agencies to stay very engaged in this project because Milton Road is just so impactful and so critical to our transportation system in the region, and particularly to NAU and the city. And that concludes my report.
Are there any comments from the board?
If I may, Madam Chair. Yeah, actually, I appreciate those comments, Jeff. And I think, as I understand what you're saying, is the no build was highest scoring, at least from the comment component associated with it. But that does bring up concerns amongst member agencies. We all know Milton has certain limitations at this point. Just play out different conceptual components such as the bus rapid transit opportunity. So I would be concerned if it proceeded that way, but from what I'm hearing, you're saying allow the process to get to its first step and then provide comment. I think it would be very valuable that we do get those comments together and provide them to ADOT at this point or as it progresses. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam,
Mr. Thompson?
Jim McCarthy.
Yeah, I just want to say that I really appreciate that opportunity existing for strong relationship and working relationship communication with ADOT staff and the MetroPlan. So I do appreciate that. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Mr. McCarthy?
Thank you, Mayor. Two comments. One is that the no action actually does include some minor improvements, turn lanes or whatever here and there, and possibly some stoplight prioritization issues that might be used by buses, et cetera. I do think it's probably premature to offer comments from Metro Plan. But I think we need to caution ourselves to not wait till the bitter end and then come in after it's all a done deal. We have to, time those comments appropriately. So I'm thinking that might be a month or two from now, as opposed to 6 months from now. So, that's not a strong recommendation. It's just hey, we better think this through and time our comments in at the best time that makes sense. Thank you.
Any other thoughts?
Mayor Adams, if I could respond.
Yes.
A little more information that I want to share, and I appreciate the comments I've heard from the board so far. I know that Mountain Line is keenly interested in this project and recently had a board meeting, and I was involved in a technical advisory committee meeting of Mountain Line. And Heather Delmelin, the CEO and general manager of Mountain Line, is convening a meeting to, get us on the same page. I want to point out that I appreciate Councilmember McCarthy's statement, as I understood it. Let's not wait till the bitter end and then just jump in with feedback. And I want to assure you that as staff, we're not just waiting. We're trying to find that balance of respecting the process, letting it play out, but also engaging and providing feedback as we go. And I think we're doing okay with that right now. And I'll certainly, keep you posted as it unfolds.
Thank you, Jeff. I anticipated that you were doing that, but just wanted to clarify it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are going to then move down to K. This will be items from our executive director, Mr. Milback. There is a federal funding update and a reminder about our next meeting. Mr. Milback.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, I also want to recognize that Kevin Adam with the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council is also in the room with us. And I know the board might have questions for him, or he might have some things to share. He is very expert in what's happening at the legislative level with the state and the federal government. I will share with you some really specific news and some incredibly encouraging news that we received yesterday. Heather Delmelin reached out to the project partners and said that ADOT contacted her, and Heather Delmelin is the CEO and general manager of Mountain Line, contacted her to say that the project grant that we submitted, there was interest in ADOT seeing if it could be scaled to about $5 million. And as you may recall, we applied for $19 million, which was the whole pot of funding, because we can use that funding in this region. And while the phone call doesn't indicate a final answer, it is very promising. I also want to take a minute to remind the board and, and the other people who may be watching this meeting of who we are in this context and how this grant came down. And essentially NAPTA, Mountain Line, is applying for these funds so that the city can use them for bicycle and pedestrian projects. And Metro Plan's role in this was actually very minor. The real credit goes to, first of all, and I really want to give a shout out here to Heather Delmelin, who had the courage, I will say, to say, yes, let's go for it. And NAPTA will commit the local match if needed, to meet this very short deadline. In my experience, that's a huge and courageous statement. And a different CEO might have played it more cautiously and really just lost the opportunity. But I also want to recognize Manager Clifton. When we heard about this opportunity, we only had a few days to apply before the deadline. That's just the way this one played out. Manager Clifton just jumped on it and recognized sometimes things happen this way. So let's go, let's pursue it, let's team up. So he provided the support needed so we could move in confidence and applying for the funds. And again, a more bureaucratic or perhaps maybe even more typical approach in the government world would be to just be really cautious and pause and wait. and neither Ms. Delmelin nor Mr. Clifton missed the opportunity. And the result very well may be about $5 million of additional funds to this community. The other thing I would point out, and it's, to learn all the great stuff we can when we make efforts, and some of them succeed and some do not. Well, I just pointed out some things that seem like they're succeeding and why. And I also want to point out the importance of the support of the Metro Plan Board of Directors, particularly the chair and Mayor Evans and Vice Chair Councilmember Odegaard, who were very engaged in and understood this process and wrote letters of support so that we could just all move very quickly. So thank you. And we are hopeful to know more about this grant at by the first of the year. And we'll be hearing that through Heather Delmelin from NAPTA. Before I go on with other things with the federal funding update, I just wanted to see if there's any questions or comments about that very big topic.
Board?
Jayo, good job. Neato. Look forward to hearing about it. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, the other item I want to share from a federal funding update is we are waiting to see what's going to happen with what I'm still calling stimulus funding, infrastructure funding at whatever level. I did hear from Bob Holmes, who's basically the lobbyist for both the city of Line, about the possibility of earmarks coming back, congressional earmarks that used to exist about 8-10 years ago and just pretty much went away. Also, the National Association of Regional Councils predicted that earmarks would come back. And I just point that out because it's a game changer. As some of you may already know, when all of the grants that we pursue are through the bureaucracy, essentially, through staff officials, it's a different approach than pursuing funding through elected officials. And both require very transparent and high quality projects, but really the path that we follow to be successful in receiving funds is different. And I just wanted to let you know that we are watching that closely and want to be ready to jump on whatever opportunity presents itself. And I think that concludes my report for federal funding update. I just wanted to recognize again that Kevin Adams is here if we have time and if the board had questions of him.
Board, do we have any questions of our guest? Okay, Mr. Milback. Okay, then the final item is a reminder of the next executive board meeting, which is January 6th. And we'll keep you posted on that and wish you all happy holidays. And thanks again to Mayor Evans and Councilmember Odegaard and Supervisor Babbitt for your amazing service over the years.
I'm going to cry. We're going to miss you guys.
I suspect you will be seeing all of us around. So board, we are down to the close and we are down to adjournment. Is there anything that anyone would like to say?
Mayor,
Mr. Thompson.
I only have one announcement, and that announcement is that we're going to be having our next state transportation board meeting on the 18th of this month, and that's hope to see Charlie Odegaard there. He's been very he has been attending those meetings, and many of you as well. But I just want to get that information out to you. And I think on the earmarks, that's probably one of the ways of getting more dollars that are definitely needed way out in the rural and remote areas, particularly in the Native American reservation. So that's my comment.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if I may, Coral. Just, the earmark opportunity, obviously, and Jeff's played this game before, but appropriations, having Kirkpatrick in appropriations is really good. But, it's real important that we work with our Arizona contingent, with Senator Kelly as he's coming on board, getting him up to speed on what we have going on, as well as, oh gosh, his name's dropping, Stanford, I believe. Being on transportation committee is important. We'll see what happens with the Senate, with Georgia on where the control goes, and that we're going to have to wait to see how that plays out. But it could be a really good opportunity for some of these special projects that we know we have a greater need and potentially might be able to get federal funding for. Again, I on the serious side, I really have enjoyed working with you, Carl, with you, Art, and Charlie. I really will miss you. You brought a knowledge associated with transportation, and we all had different ideas, and yet we all unified on them. So really appreciate, launching where we got with MetroPlan now, all the hard work that y'all have put in. So thank you for that.
And it is Congressman Stanton. I believe that's the individual.
I'm right on knowing names again. That's right. Thanks, Coral.
May I speak quickly? I just want to thank everybody for making me the temporary chair. And I realize that might only last for a month or two. But obviously, I'm going to have to take this seriously and come up to speed. Jeff, you and I probably should get together in the next couple of weeks. Mr. Thompson, could you send me that information on that state transportation meeting? It would probably be a good idea to attend. And Charlie, you and I may want to talk because you've been so active in promoting transportation. I kind of maybe want to get a debriefing from you. And then I just want to say the three outgoing members, as I said at the first part of the meeting, I consider you all to be friends and thank you for your service, and we will see you around. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr.
Mayor,
Beck?
Yeah, just really appreciate working with everyone here. Great work. I'm super looking forward to, my new window of opportunity. And Jim, thanks for stepping up right out of the gate with leadership on this, and Matt as well. So appreciate the work you do and how you do it.
Thank you.
Jesse, is that a Christmas tree behind you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I got to work on that.
Madam Chairwoman,
Ms. Salas?
if I may, I just wanna wish Supervisor Babbitt and Mayor and Councilmember Charlie happy trails. I'm confident that our paths will cross again, and I'm sending you big heart from my grateful heart to yours. Godspeed.
Mr. Malbec?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And my focus on the board members who I'm losing, I do want to point out that Supervisor Thompson, I'm so grateful you're staying, but also Supervisor Thompson's retirement from as a supervisor is happening on December 8th at 10 o'clock. So I'll look forward to participating in that and wish you well, Supervisor Thompson.
I have it on my desktop.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to go ahead and take the liberty of getting ready to close out this meeting. I will tell each and every one of you how much it's been an honor to have been the chair of MetroPlan over the last, I believe, 12 months. that it has been truly one of my favorite commissions to sit on. And I've been on the Metro Plan Board since 2008. I have learned a lot. I sit here now, I look at Supervisor Ryan, and I have learned a lot from what it is that metropolitan planning organizations do, because I didn't understand for like almost two years of sitting on the board, but to becoming very passionate about regional transportation systems. And so again, I look forward to seeing each and every one of you over the next few months in a different role. And I am very thankful for the friendship that we've been able to establish. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.